Story 1. I passed the same billboard 3 times, but the message changed each time. This happened to me in 2018 while hauling a load from Phoenix to El Paso. I'd taken this route a dozen times before. Highway 10, long, flat stretches of asphalt cutting through the southern desert. It was the kind of drive where hours passed like minutes, just dust, tumbleweed and heat shimmering off the road. I was ahead of schedule and planned to pull off at a rest area past Bowie, maybe nap a few hours before the last leg. The first time I saw the billboard was around 11:40 p.m. It was simple, a black background with large white letters. You've passed her. No branding, no product, just that. I slowed a little, confused. I thought maybe it was some anti-trafficking campaign. Arizona had a few of those scattered along the highway. Still, the phrasing hit weird. Her? I kept driving. About 30 minutes later, I passed it again. Same billboard, same message, except this time it read, "You didn't stop." I actually said out loud, "What the hell?" and pulled over onto the shoulder. I hadn't turned off anywhere. The road had been a straight shot, no loops. I checked my GPS, no rerouting, no detours, just me and miles of empty desert. The billboard was maybe 100 yards behind me, lit only by my taillights. I stayed in the cab, engine idling, watching it in my mirror. Nothing happened. Eventually I shook it off, figured maybe there were 2 identical signs, some weird guerrilla marketing campaign maybe. I've seen stranger. I eased back onto the highway, trying to ignore how unsettled I felt. The third time was different. I'd driven another hour, maybe more. Time didn't feel right that night. Every few minutes I'd glance at the clock, only to see it hadn't changed. Then it would suddenly jump forward. Around 1:30 a.m. I saw the poles. I was approaching the same stretch, but the billboard itself was gone. Just 2 tall steel frames, standing empty like bones. What made me stop this time were the tire tracks. They peeled off the highway right at the base of the billboard. Fresh, not dusty or faded. It looked like a vehicle had turned suddenly and veered into the scrub brush. I pulled over again, killed the engine. The silence was immediate and total. No wind, no bugs, just the crunch of gravel under my boots as I got out. The tracks led off into nothing. No trail, no lights in the distance, just desert. I stood there for a long time, just listening. At some point, I noticed how cold it had gotten. Not just cool, actually cold. My breath came out in pale ribbons. That didn't make sense in Arizona, not in April. I should have left then, but I didn't. I grabbed my flashlight from the cab and followed the tire marks maybe 20 yards off-road. That's when I saw the shoe. Just one, a white sneaker half buried in the sand. No footprints around it. I stood over it, frozen, when something else caught the light. Farther out, nearly swallowed by the dark, another billboard, not visible from the road. Same size, same poles, but no lights, and on it, spray-painted in uneven red letters. Too late. I turned back, but for a split second, I wasn't sure which direction I'd come from. Everything looked the same. Scrub, sand, shadows. I could see my truck barely, but I swear it felt farther than it should have been. I ran. Didn't care if I tripped. I just ran. When I got back inside the cab, I locked the doors and drove without stopping until the sun came up. I tried to find the billboards again on the return trip. I took photos of the whole stretch. Nothing. No structures, no poles, no shoe. I checked satellite images later. Nothing showed up where I stopped. The road was clean. No exits, no dirt tracks, no signs of anything. I never took that route again. I was running a dual route that night. Me and another driver, Pete, hauling tandem cargo to Austin. We split radio channels to keep in touch off-grid. This was standard. We didn't like using cell coverage on isolated roads. Around 2:15 a.m. I got on the mic. "Pete, you still ahead of me?" Nothing. I tried again. "Copy, Pete? You should be about 10 miles out." Still nothing. Just white noise. The CB had worked fine earlier. I tapped the mic, checked the unit, looked good, tried again. "Come on, man, don't zone out. You still rolling?" Then the static changed. became sharper, more erratic, and then I heard it. Not Pete. Just a low, flat voice. Wrong route. I froze. It wasn't Pete, wasn't me. I sat there with the mic in my hand, suddenly aware of how alone I was. The road behind me stretched out black and endless. The highway ahead, empty. I keyed the mic. "Who is this?" No reply, just static. Then the same voice, clearer. "You weren't supposed to pass the second one." The hairs on my arms stood straight up. That wasn't a phrase you hear by accident. That wasn't a prank. No one knew about the billboard but me. I killed the radio. I floored it. I didn't even realize my headlights had dimmed until I checked the dash. Voltage was dropping. The gauges looked off. Not broken, just behind. Lagging. Like the truck was reacting to inputs a second late. I was white-knuckling the wheel, just pushing forward, trying not to think. That's when I saw it again, far off in the dark, just beyond the guardrail. Another billboard, same poles, same shape, but no message, just a wide, pale smear, something white like paint. No letters, until I got closer, and the message clicked on. "Turn back!" It flickered like a fluorescent tube dying. There was no power source, no lighting rig. I kept driving, but the next mile dragged like a dream. Like running through wet concrete. The CB hissed on by itself, then a whisper, "Turn off your lights." I yanked the cord out. Silence. When I finally caught up to Pete at the rest stop, he looked spooked. Said he'd lost track of time, claimed he pulled over to take a leak and swore the whole drive had taken 30 minutes longer than it should have. I didn't tell him what I heard. I made it to Austin just after 6 a.m. I was drained, not tired, drained. Like something had been pulled out of me along the road. The depot was half asleep. Pete signed in and joked about grabbing breakfast. I declined. Said I needed to log my hours, clean up. I parked the rig, climbed out, and that's when I saw the note. Tucked under the wiper blade, folded clean, no envelope. I looked around. The lot was empty. I unfolded it. "You were supposed to stop. Now we'll follow you instead." No signature, just slanted handwriting, ballpoint ink. Blue, smeared in one place like someone's hand had shaken. I didn't say a word. I crumpled it, tossed it in the dumpster behind the depot, and clocked out. That was 6 years ago. Since then, I've seen things, not often, but often enough. Out-of-place mile markers, signs that don't match the route. More than once, I've passed a billboard I swore I'd never seen before. Sometimes I'll glance back in the mirror and it'll be gone. Once, outside Deming, I saw a woman standing in the median. No car, no bag, just standing barefoot, staring straight ahead. She wasn't hitching, wasn't moving. By the time I pulled over to look back, she was gone. I don't use the CB anymore. Don't drive at night if I can help it. But sometimes when I stop at a rest area, I'll find another note. Always the same kind of handwriting, always folded clean. Last month it said, "It's almost time again." I've never told anyone, until now. Story 2. She kept appearing in the rear view, but never passed me. This happened to me in the fall of 2019, on a route I'd taken 100 times. I was hauling refrigerated produce from Washington State to Southern California. A long, open stretch, mostly along I-5. That drive always gave me a weird comfort. Big sky, long lines of trees, nothing but the sound of tires and radio fuzz. It started the second night. I'd pulled off for a short rest break just outside Reading. It was just past 2 a.m. The kind of hour where even truckers stop talking. I wasn't planning on sleeping, just wanted to stretch and splash some water on my face before the last push. When I got back in the cab, I adjusted my seat and checked my mirrors. That's when I saw her. A woman, pale face, long hair, sitting in the car behind me. At first I thought maybe I hadn't noticed anyone pull in, but the lot had been empty when I parked. Still, I stared at her in the mirror. She didn't move, didn't blink, just sat there, expression neutral, like she was waiting for something. Then I turned around. There was no car, nothing behind me, no engine, no headlights, just asphalt. I looked back into the mirror, empty. I shook it off, told myself I was tired. Highway hallucinations, sensory fatigue, happens sometimes, especially on the road at night when the white lines start blending into one long, blinking pattern. But I felt it, that pressure in the chest, that sense that someone's watching you too closely from a place they shouldn't be. The next night, it happened again, only this time I was driving. Midway through the Shasta stretch, steep climbs, fog rolling in from the trees, visibility shot, I caught a shape in my rear view. She was back, sitting still, close, way too close. Her eyes were locked on mine through the mirror. I blinked. She didn't. I hit the brakes and pulled off at a wide shoulder, leaned out the window to check my blind spots. No car behind me. Nothing on the road at all. I got out, walked the length of the trailer. No one, no vehicle. I even checked under the truck. Back in the cab, I flipped the switch to fold the mirror in. Didn't help. Still saw her. Like the mirror wasn't showing the outside world anymore. Just her. I stopped using the rear view altogether. Taped over it with black duct tape the next morning. Didn't matter. I still felt it. That specific awareness of being watched not from behind, but through something. I changed lanes less, checked my sides too often, started swerving without realizing it. My palms stayed sweaty, locked on the wheel. My sleep was thin and dreamless. I kept waking up from noises that weren't there, seat creaks, breath sounds, the light brushing of hair. I began to notice patterns. She only appeared when I was driving in motion, never when the truck was idle. And never in the side mirrors, only in the center one, the one I'd already blacked out, but somehow I still saw her, reflected faintly in the chrome edges of the dash screen, in the polished plastic casing around my GPS mount. I'd wiped them down, angled them away. Still there she was, still, silent, unblinking. I stopped talking to anyone, radio off. CB unplugged. Music felt too loud, silence too loud. By the third day, I caught myself whispering, "I know you're not real." And I wasn't totally sure I believed myself. I reached a truck stop in Buttonwillow around 5 p.m. Sunset was hitting hard, thick orange slicing through the dusty sky. I hadn't planned on stopping, but my hands were shaking too much to hold the wheel steady. I parked by the far end, away from the pumps, just sat there, engine ticking. Inside, the place was almost empty. I grabbed coffee I wouldn't drink and wandered into the driver's lounge. Just needed to be around someone else. There was one guy, older, heavy-set, with hands like rope and a faded Marine Corps tattoo on his forearm. He was staring at a muted TV playing some static weather loop. I sat across from him without saying anything. He didn't look over for a while. Then he said calm and low, "You've been seeing her, haven't you?" I didn't answer right away. He continued, "Don't worry, I did too." I looked at him expecting a joke, but his eyes weren't laughing. They were tired. "She's been on the roads longer than either of us," he said. "Used to show up in mirrors. Now it's anything that reflects." I asked what he meant. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a thin, weathered wallet. From it, he unfolded a piece of paper, yellowed and soft. It was a photograph, old, torn edges, black and white. A woman. Long dark hair, face pale and soft, almost blurred, eyes locked straight on the camera. Same expression, same woman. I knew it before he said it. "She started showing up in the late 70s, he said. "At first only long haulers saw her, then guys on overnight routes, always the same. Rearview mirror, back seat, reflective glass, never passes, never overtakes, just waits." I asked him what she wanted. He said, "Not everyone agrees on that. Some think she's a trauma imprint. Others think she was a trucker's wife who got left at a rest stop. Some think she died in a crash. One guy swears she's a warning. I don't know. I just know what worked." I leaned forward. He held up one thick finger. "You gotta let her pass." "What does that mean?" "It means you stop looking. You drive with your eyes ahead. You never check the mirror. You never acknowledge her." I asked if that's what he did. He nodded. After a while, she moved on. Haven't seen her in 15 years, but I still drive day routes. I don't risk night. He packed the photo back in his wallet. I asked where he got it. He said a guy from Ohio gave it to me after she stopped following him. I didn't sleep that night. Drove straight through until Bakersfield. The mirror stayed taped, but my side window kept showing something. A faint shape, sitting where the back seat would be. I kept my eyes forward and tried not to see her in the passing chrome of every other truck. By the fourth day, I started searching online. Truckers' forums, driver subreddits, the weird ones, late-night AM radio archives. I wasn't the only one. They called her different names. The companion, Rearview girl, the passenger. Some posts were obviously fake, embellished nonsense, but some felt real. Tight, clipped sentences, desperate for validation. She only shows up when I'm tired. She stares through the mirror, not into it. She doesn't follow. She anticipates. One comment stuck with me. You don't feel followed. You feel predicted, like she's already inside your timeline. I started driving only during daylight, slept in the cab, curtains drawn, ate cold food, didn't talk to anyone. But she was still there. Not every time, but often enough. One morning, just before dawn, I made a decision. I peeled off the duct tape from the rearview mirror, slowly. It was still dark outside. The mirror showed only the dim shapes of the sleeper cab behind me, my own silhouette, and then movement. Not in the mirror, in the passenger seat. I turned my head. There she was, sitting beside me, not as a shadow, not as a hallucination. Her face was soft, almost calm, eyes wide open, smiling. She didn't blink. Her mouth was moving, slowly, deliberately, like she was talking, but no sound came out. She kept mouthing something over and over. I didn't look away. Couldn't. After a few seconds, she raised one hand and pointed to the windshield, to the road. I turned my head back just as the truck began to drift into the opposite lane. I swerved back, tires screaming. The cab shook, coffee spilled, horns blared in the distance. When I looked back, she was gone. The seat was empty. I pulled over, parked under a flickering rest stop light, sat there for maybe an hour, shaking. Then I picked up a roll of fresh duct tape, covered the mirror again. Later that week, I found another forum thread. One guy posted, "I let her pass. Now she rides with someone else." I never saw her again. Not clearly. But every now and then, I catch a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye, usually when I'm tired or stopped on a shoulder. And sometimes, in those early hours just before dawn, I hear a soft, dry whisper in the cab, like someone's still trying to speak, but they've forgotten how. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. Story 3. The gas station didn't exist on any map, but they knew my name. This happened in 2021, somewhere between Kansas and Colorado, though I still can't tell you exactly where. I was running a solo long haul from Nashville to Salt Lake City. It wasn't a bad route. Most of it is straight, uneventful terrain until you hit the emptier stretches near the state lines. That's where it gets strange. Too flat, too quiet, like driving across a dried-out memory. It was the third night of the trip, about 2:30 a.m. I'd passed my usual rest window hours ago, but caffeine and white noise had kept me going. The road had been empty for what felt like miles. No signs, no turnoffs. Just the dull hum of tires and the faint rhythm of the radio cycling through static. That's when the low fuel light came on. I swore under my breath. I was sure I'd refueled past Wichita, but maybe I'd misjudged. Pulled out my phone, 0 bars, no data, just a frozen GPS dot with the words unknown road beneath it. I slowed, watching the horizon for any lights. I didn't want to kill the engine unless I absolutely had to. I figured I had 10 miles left in the tank, maybe less. That's when I saw it, a blue-green glow off to the right, neon, small but unmistakable, a canopy over 2 pumps, classic desert-style station. Looked abandoned, but the lights were on. I took the exit, no signage, no mile marker. As I pulled into the lot, the station seemed to flicker, like the neon was glitching. The sign above the roof read, "Pine Bend Service." Never heard of it, but what made me stop was the marquee below. White plastic letters snapped into the board. "Welcome back, John." I hadn't told anyone where I was. The dispatcher didn't have live tracking enabled. I'd turned off my location permissions years ago. There was no way. I stared at the sign, waiting for it to change. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe the sign had been welcoming someone else back. Another John, another truck. I opened the door. The night was warmer than it should have been. The air smelled like scorched rubber and old milk. I stood there, 1 foot on the gravel, and looked back the way I came. The road I'd just exited, it wasn't there anymore. No on-ramp, no asphalt, just dirt and sagebrush fading into black. I took a photo of the sign, or tried to. My phone froze. The screen dimmed to black, wouldn't restart. That's when I saw the movement. Behind the window inside the station, someone shifting behind the glass, a figure stepping to the side then vanishing. I didn't want to go in, but I had no gas, no GPS, no road back. I walked inside. The bell above the door jingled, but the sound came half a second too late. The inside of the station looked frozen in time, like a museum exhibit stuck in 1985. Pegboard shelves with faded snacks, a rotating postcard rack, an old freezer humming too loud in the back. There was no one behind the counter, just a chair, still warm. I called out, nothing. The lights buzzed overhead, flickering slightly. I walked to the back of the store, past the cooler toward a narrow hallway with a sign above it that read, "Restrooms." Something about that hallway felt longer than it should have. As I walked, the air temperature dropped. I could hear water dripping, and faintly, a humming, like someone breathing through their nose. The bathroom door creaked as I pushed it open. It was clean, too clean, like it had just been scrubbed and bleached. The smell stung my eyes. I stepped inside and froze. On the mirror above the sink, scratched into the glass with something sharp, were the words, "You stopped here last time too." I stared at the words for a long time, then ran my fingers across the letters. They were real, deep, etched. I backed up, looked at myself in the reflection. Then something caught my eye. In the corner of the mirror, a stall door, slightly ajar. I hadn't noticed it opening. I turned. The stall was empty. I checked my phone again. Still black. My watch had stopped. 2:38 a.m., frozen. I walked out of the bathroom and back into the main store, and that's when I saw him. A man now stood behind the counter, mid-50s, thin, wearing a grease-streaked polo shirt with no logo. He was watching me. He didn't blink, didn't move. I approached slowly, trying to keep my voice calm. "Do you have gas?" He nodded, slow. I reached for my wallet. Before I could speak, he said, "Pump 2. You always use 2. I paused. He reached under the counter and slid forward a receipt. My name was printed at the top. John Maddox, Pump 2, 4963. Date, October 18th, 2017, 4 years earlier. My hand shook as I picked it up. I hadn't driven this route in 2017. I'd never been in this part of the country before, never. But the signature at the bottom of the receipt was mine. I backed away from the counter, walked outside. The sign was different now. "See you next time." I fueled up. I don't know why I trusted the pump. I just did what I always do. Took the nozzle, filled the tank, stared at the horizon, and waited for the click. When I looked up, the store lights were off, pitch black, like no one had ever been inside. I got back into the truck and pulled out. The road reappeared, like it had always been there. I didn't question it. I just drove. About 45 minutes later, I reached a junction I recognized, US 24 West, near mile marker 433. That's when I saw the brake lights. A flash of red and blue. An accident. I slowed, pulled onto the shoulder. A few other rigs were already stopped. Police cruisers were blocking the road. One of the officers was talking to a shaken driver sitting on the curb. I craned my neck to see the wreck. My stomach dropped. It was my truck. Same make, same scratches on the side, same custom plate. JN Mad X. The trailer was twisted sideways, jackknifed. The cab had hit the guardrail, smoke curled up from the front, but I was in my truck, sitting, breathing, watching this happen. A medic passed by and I asked him what happened. He didn't even look at me, walked past like I wasn't there. I got out, approached the crash. An officer turned toward me. He didn't react, didn't see me. I looked down at my hands, then into the cracked passenger window of the wrecked truck. Inside, I saw myself, bleeding, still breathing, eyes wide open, looking up, whispering something, mouth forming words I couldn't hear. I stumbled back, turned toward the highway. That's when I noticed a shape by the mile marker, a figure, same man from the gas station. He was just standing there, watching me. He raised one hand and pointed back the way I came, behind me. The road was gone again. No tire tracks, no landmarks, just dust. I never found that gas station on any map. I checked forums, blogs, even old trucking directories. Nothing. But I did find a thread about leak zones, places where time folds, where routes repeat before you take them, where buildings remember you before you arrive. Sometimes you pass through and forget. Sometimes you see what's ahead before it happens. Sometimes you catch up to yourself, and sometimes you stop, even when you weren't supposed to. I still have the receipt, same date, same total. Every now and then I check the signature. Still looks like mine, but I don't remember signing it. Not the first time, not the last.